Hi there. Welcome to Bible/Christmas. Gus, hello.
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Too fast, Gus. Too fast. You're supposed to memorize your lines,
I
Gus.
know. I'm actually like a great chess player, thinking two moves ahead.
I don't think that's chess. I think that's tired.
And I think that's checkers.
Checkers. Yes, something
Yes.
like that. Well, hey, we have a meditation for today, and it's about government. Actually,
Big fan of government.
are you a big fan of government?
Of course.
What?
God
What?
chose them for us.
Amen. Exactly. What text would you get that from?
Somewhere in the Bible. Somewhere in the
Wow.
back.
Somewhere in the back. Yeah, it's in the New Testament and the Old Testament. The meditation for today is about Quirinius, the governor of Syria, and Caesar Augustus. So
Yes.
we have big names in the ancient world. Caesar Augustus, he has a census. He actually demands that
Yeah.
a census take place. And it says over all the inhabited earth. So at this point, you have the Pax Romana. There's literally basically all the known world is essentially conquered by Rome. The borders of the Roman Empire reach all the way up into through Gaul, all the way across the Germanic regions, all over North Africa. They've really pretty much conquered everyone. And so he says there's going to be a census.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like one of the biggest events in the history of the world at this
Yeah.
point, because literally everybody has to go back. If you look at verse 3 in Luke chapter 2,
Yeah.
it says everyone was on his way to register for the census, each to his own city. Everyone.
Mm.
So everyone has to travel now. So Caesar Augustus, this is a ridiculous amount of power, and he's like, hey, everyone go back to your original city. We're going to register for the census. And Joseph, who's this poor carpenter, went up from Galilee, from the city of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and family of David, in order to register along with Mary, who was engaged to him, who was with child. Okay, so literally the entire known world moves at this point. Caesar Augustus makes this demand. The entire known world moves. What's the purpose? Why?
Mm.
You tell me. Why does it move?
So that Jesus can be born in Bethlehem.
Why is that such a big deal?
Because of Micah 5:2.
And there you go. Micah 5:2. So God makes a promise several hundred years prior. He makes a promise. He tells David, your son's going to be, it's one of your sons is going to come and sit on the throne. Micah, the minor prophet, he says, you have, that's going to be in Bethlehem where he's going to be born. And so what does God do? He moves, excuse me, he moves the entire world
Yeah.
to get Joseph and Mary down to Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Now he's also doing a whole bunch of other stuff too, but he moves the entire world to get them there, to make this promise come to pass. But if you look at verse 7, it says, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, and she wrapped him in cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn.
Mm.
Now this I find fascinating. Bethlehem is like Clovis. It's like an unknown town, kind of off the beaten path, out of the main areas. And there's an inn in town, and they've traveled. God moves the entire world, but he can't get an open room for them. Now, why would he do that? That's my question.
Yeah.
You tell me.
I thought this is your meditation, not mine.
All right, fine. No, what's he doing? Well, I think the same thing that's happening in Bethlehem is what's happening in the census, actually.
Yeah.
God is fulfilling his plan for his son. So his plan for his son is that he would be born in Bethlehem. He has to be born in Bethlehem because there's years and years of prophecy about where he would be born and what family he would come from and all sorts of things. All those have to be fulfilled. But he also has to be a person who no one would pay any attention to. Because in Isaiah chapter 53 it says, who would have ever known him? We wouldn't have ever noticed him, right? Who would believe our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot. No one knew him. So God is doing the same thing by filling all the rooms at the inn as he is by moving the entire inhabited world. What he's doing is he's showing this to be the Christ.
Yeah.
So he works at massively broad scales in working out events so that his purposes can be fulfilled. And he works at the most micro scales, filling all the hotel rooms so that Mary has to have the baby at the inn and put Jesus in a manger. And in Jesus's birth, he comes into the world in obscurity and lowliness. And he leaves the world actually in a very similar way. Big events taking place at the end of his life. God's moving all sorts of things geopolitically. All of that is taking place so that Christ is crucified. And that takes place in relative obscurity. Not that many people worry about that. He dies in relative obscurity in terms of the geopolitical nature of what's happening.
Mm.
And yet God, through all of that, is moving at the highest levels and organizing everything at the lowest levels to bring about his perfect purposes for his son. Which I think is helpful for me to think about, because when we read this, we're like, oh, there's no room in the inn. That wasn't an accident, right? All of that was coming about because of God's purposes. God's purposes are over everything, from the highest things to the smallest things. And so when you see, a manger scene or a creche or whatever, and you're looking at it, you say, well, look at that. Look at how the baby's in the manger. It should remind us, I think, God is totally sovereign over our circumstances. He's sovereign over the biggest events that take place, like elections and events that take place on that level. And he's sovereign over the smallest things, like flat tires and complexities like that. All of it is working together for the good. And he has a perfect plan for us.
That's so helpful. Really, really helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That is our meditation on censuses and government. God works at both levels, the big and the small. Hope that's helpful for you this Christmas. And if you have questions on that or any other topic, feel free to email us at info@faithbibleoc.org. Thanks so much.